Hey everybody, Misty Williams from Creative Entrepreneur Radio, and this next guest has done something very awesome for us here in the Creative Entrepreneur family, and that is he's responsible for the awesome music that you hear at the open and close of every show. I called my friend Roger when I decided that I was going to do a podcast, and being from Nashville and living in Austin, two amazing music cities, I knew I had to make sure that my music was not stock music and didn't suck. Those were my two criteria. I really wanted it to be amazing. Called Roger and asked him if he could just, quote, do me a favor. I wanted him to do something simple. We talk about it in the interview. And long story short, he created, with the help of some of the best session players in Nashville, a really, really kick-ass intro and outro for my show. And more than that, he has just an unbelievable resume and unbelievable list of experiences, repertoire of clients that he's worked with as a producer and composer in Nashville, Tennessee. He's really brilliant. I mean, talk about a creative entrepreneur. Started out, traveling on the road as a music director and just continuing to build his career over time. And we have a fantastic conversation about what it takes to produce music, what kind of entrepreneurial chops you've got to have, what kind of leader you have to be. Just super interesting. I found the whole idea of making music and creating music, when thought of as a metaphor for growing a business, to be very powerful. And Roger's just an awesome human being, amazing human being. He's one of my dearest friends. I can count on him, and I'm so honored that he would take time out of his very busy schedule as not only a producer, but he just launched a new label to spend some time with us and share a little bit of what it's like behind the scenes and in the life of a music composer, a Grammy-nominated producer. He's amazing. This is a great interview. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Welcome to Creative Entrepreneur Radio. We're going backstage to explore the lives, lifestyles, and growth strategies mastered by seasoned entrepreneurs around the world. Entrepreneurs are gladiators. Are you one of us? If you're a first-time listener, welcome. Feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes and check out our show notes at creativeentrepreneurradio.com. Up now, host and founder of MarketechU.com, Misty Williams.
Hey everybody, Misty Williams here. Welcome to Creative Entrepreneur Radio. I am super excited to have on the show today my very good friend and producer extraordinaire and producer of the Creative Entrepreneur Awesome Music that you're listening to right now, Roger Ryan. Roger is a Grammy-nominated music producer, arranger, and piano virtuoso who grew up in Trinidad in a musical family. He started playing piano at age 4 and was a child virtuoso who started playing for the church at 8 years old. And when his peers were playing basketball in high school, Roger was arranging music and playing anywhere he could get the chance. After college, Roger moved to Nashville to pursue a full-time career. His collaborators include Whitney Houston, Wynonna Judd, Cece Winans, Faith Hill, Amy Grant, Michael W. Smith, Jaqi Velasquez, Anointed, and a cappella group Take 6. He's performed for 2 presidents, traveled the world playing some of our largest music venues, traveled to Scotland for Ashley Judd's wedding, and has had some other unbelievable opportunities, like appearances on Good Morning America, NBC's Today Show, Rosie O'Donnell Show, Motown Live, and CBS This Morning. In January of this year, he launched his record label, Aftertouch Music, to launch artists he believes in. And as I mentioned, he produced our amazing music, and I'm so excited to have you on. Welcome, Roger.
Thank you, Misty. It's good to be here.
I'm so excited to talk to you because your journey as an entrepreneur, which really that's what you are. I know like in Nashville, we don't necessarily call ourselves that label a lot, but your entrepreneurial journey is just amazing. When I think about all the different opportunities that you've really created for yourself by hustling and working on your craft and continuing to just get better as a musician and an artist and producer, the networking that you've done to build the relationships that you need to make records. I mean, it's all remarkable. You are a machine. And I'm probably making you blush, but I'm really excited to hear and talk a little bit more about your story today. So, like, I don't think of you as not American, but you're not American, actually. You grew up in Trinidad, and you have been a guest in our country. But it gives you this interesting perspective on just on how all of this works. Tell us about, coming over. I know that your family was, spent time in the United States while you were growing up, so you kind of were back and forth, and you ended up coming back to the States to go to college. So take us back. This is your life.
Yeah, I was, as you said, I was born in Trinidad and Tobago, and I came to the States when I was about 18 months old, and then I went back to Trinidad when I was about 7. So my life is dual.
Yes.
In that regard.
Citizen.
While I was a young boy here in the States, I started playing piano at 4, and actually I was reading fluently at 4 as well. So when I got to Trinidad, of course, I got skipped through school. At 8, 9, I was preparing to take the entrance exam to go to high school. I took the entrance exam and got the high score on the island, and I went to high school at 9, turned 10 in high school.
So you're one of those kids who, like, you remind me of the Asian kid that's, like, graduating from high school when they're 12 and going on to college.
Yeah, I didn't go, though.
Smart.
I way too young. It was already a social adjustment.
Right.
To be in high school, have the body of a child, and try to navigate socially sports and just girls. Quite honestly. And so when I graduated, I guess at 14. I moved back to the States and went to high school again, at least for 2 years or something. I was trying to catch up because I just never fit in.
Yeah.
And stayed in the States. Went to college.
Was your family over here at the time?
My parents sent me up 1 year before they finished their assignment. My dad's an educator, built a high school in Trinidad and Tobago, was on the board of trustees for a huge university there, University of the Southern Caribbean. And my mom is a retired registered nurse. So they did a lot of stuff there, and they had assignments, and they came up after that.
Right.
And we moved to Florida from New York to Orlando, and then once I got to college, my parents wanted to move even further south. They wanted to get as close to the island as they could to enjoy the heat, so they moved to the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. They reside in Trinidad and Tobago now. They've retired, they say. My dad consults for the school he built. He's also a professional counselor. He does marriage crisis counseling, flies around the Caribbean and intercepts marriages, bad marriages, pastors' marriages. He works with young people, blah, blah, blah. My mom has a talk show every Thursday at 6:15 on the national station in Tobago, and talks about quality of life and different things like that.
Yeah. So your family is actually pretty musical. You were telling me before we came on that there's a lot of strains and types of music that happens in your family, and you have, I guess, a cousin or a brother.
My brother.
Yeah.
My cousin Ronald does play, and he actually composes. My second brother Randy, as I call him, is a songwriter, producer. He actually got the first publishing deal in our family, moved to New York with $40 and a sack of clothes and stayed with my aunt in Brooklyn, and got a deal with Rondor Music, and co-wrote a song with Puffy called Can't You See, and got the first gold record in our family. It was on Spike Lee's movie New Jersey Drive. It was on Love and Basketball, Dr. Dolittle 2, and a couple of others, a couple of other movies. It still gets played. It's funny, I was in a restaurant in Manhattan a few months ago, I think, and I was like, boy, this song sounds familiar. It was Randy's song.
Yeah, so that had to be pretty exciting for you, considering what what you ultimately chose as your path as well.
Yeah, and it was funny. My brother is actually finishing up his nurse practitioning. So when he got married, he decided to do nursing, which all of us wanted to be medical.
Right. Right.
Except for my youngest brother. Robert is a computer genius. He does all kinds of computer stuff. And Randy wanted to be a vet. I wanted to be a cardiovascular surgeon. But music won. And he still has a studio when I go up there. He still sends me software. We still trade music secrets and information and stuff like that. So, yeah,
so
that's...
When did music win? When did you know that it was going to be music and not science or not medicine?
End of my sophomore year in college. Well, that's a kind of a weird story too. You know, when I was a kid in Florida, the church that I went to, Brian McKnight and his brothers would frequent the church, and his mom. And so from time to time, I would play with his mom. His mom played the organ. I played the piano. Brian, of course, was younger than I, and then he came to college when I got to college. But in college, I met Mark Kibble, who is one of the founding members of this group, Take Six. And that pretty much changed my life forever. But at the end of my sophomore year is when I really decided to change. Mark actually told me, "What are you doing with this biology major? You know, music is your destiny." I shouldn't have listened to him.
Did you feel that? Was there a part of you that felt like you should be doing music instead of science before you actually made the choice?
Absolutely. It always burned inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
Before I got to college, I would listen to music and it would overwhelm me. I remember listening to an Earth, Wind & Fire record called I Am, and listening to the intro. You know, back in the day, you know, you didn't have your own stereo, or the real stereo was always in mom and dad's room. You know, daddy ran the stereo. And I put that record on and I listened to the first few bars and I started screaming when
Yeah.
I started screaming. I'd never heard music like that. It was just huge and it was overpowering. Actually, David Foster produced that record with Maurice White, which of course is one of my favorite records, the Earth, Wind & Fire record, I Am. And I've always been attached and gravitated to music all through my life. Even when I wasn't taking piano lessons, I kept playing. And college just kind of confirmed it, meeting the guys in Take Six, hearing the music that was on the campus. I went to Oakwood College in Huntsville, and there was so much music there. Like, Take Six was one of 20 groups, you know, people that could really sing, you know, and sing really well. And I knew that there was something not right about going to, you know, biology and plant biology and chemistry in the morning and then going on the other side of the campus to, you know, form an analysis and theory and piano in the afternoon. It just started to take its toll on me, and I had to make a decision. I was skipping my labs to go to the studio downtown, you know, and stuff like that. So I knew I had to get out of this biology thing. Even though I loved medicine very much and loved the craft of healing, I had to get out of it. It was not who I was supposed to be in life.
Right. I think it's fascinating to hear you talking about music. I just did an interview this morning with Brian White, actually, that will be coming out right before your interview. And, you know, he talks about music the same way. And he actually said that the stereo, he was talking about setting up his drums at home, and he actually said the stereo's in the other part of the house. Dad controlled the stereo, which I thought was really interesting, because when he said it, I remember thinking, oh yeah, I guess that was true in my family too, but I didn't have that same relationship to the music, so it wasn't poignant in the same ways. But you know, I remember walking through, I don't know, remember where we were at, if we were at my house or your house, and you pointing up to a light that was humming and saying, that's E. Like, you just, it's so in you. I'm fascinated by that. You know, it's obvious, especially on this side of your journey, that music is who you are. So,
did I say E or did I say B?
I don't know. I can't remember. You would remember better than me. It was just a letter.
Most buzzes are a B.
Most buzzes are a B.
Yeah.
Exactly. I rest my case. So one of the things that that's really fun about your story is hearing about like life after college. You know, you traveled with Take Six, and then you started getting some really cool opportunities to travel on the road with Cece Winans and, you know, a bunch of other things. Take us into that a little bit. And did you always know you would end up producing? Was that always kind of where you wanted to take things?
I think coming out of college, I started to think, I'm going to end up arranging and producing. I didn't know what that picture looked like for me at the time, but there's an archive of CDs or cassettes back then called Precious Memories, and I did 11 volumes when I was in school. So I was, cutting my teeth on production even then in college.
Right.
Of course, when I listen back to this stuff, it's so humbling. but there's something special about listening to it.
Of course, it's where you started.
Where I started and where I was exploring my musical world and free to try things,
Mm-hmm.
But after college, I traveled with a group out of Placerville, California called the Heritage Singers. I traveled with them for 2 years, made $214 every 2 weeks.
Wow.
Lived on a ranch. They had a huge ranch up there with everything, so to speak. I traveled to every state in the country, but I also traveled out of the country. So there was a trade with the money, so to speak. I don't know that I was looking for money as I was looking for opportunity back then.
Right.
And, we did Alaska. We did every state in the country, including Alaska and Hawaii. But then we did a South Pacific tour, which was amazing. We went to Hawaii, to Australia, and not just Sydney. We were in Brisbane, Melbourne, and Sydney. Sydney. And then we did New Zealand, we did Fiji, and we did Tahiti. Mm-hmm. Very incredible tour. Then I came back and decided to go to grad school. Studied arranging. I followed the guys in Take Six there. Two of them, Mervyn and Cedric, studied their masters in arranging. So I studied with the same teacher, and I got to write for the orchestra. The school hired me as a student to write for Della Reese. Every year they have a big Martin Luther King program at the school, and they invite the football coach, God knows why, to talk, which never made any sense. But anyway, he spoke. And they would invite a musical guest. And that year they booked Natalie Cole, and she couldn't do it. She was double booked somewhere else. So they booked Della Reese. So I wrote these Duke Ellington, jazz band orchestra charts as a student at the University of Alabama for Della Reese. After that, I moved to Nashville, worked a day job, and played at a church, took gigs wherever I could. And finally ended up being Cece Winans' first music director.
Do you consider that to be one of, like, a bigger break or a defining moment?
Yes, it was definitely a defining moment in my career. If you don't know anything about the Winans, they were very huge. Their family was a huge kind of gospel entity, kind of like the Hawkins, like the Jacksons, really. The brothers actually had a group, a quartet that was introduced before, while I was in college. And then BB and Cece came after that, and they were a huge, successful duo, like a pop Christian duo. And then Cece decided to launch her solo career. And at the time, she was like the largest Christian artist in the world at the time. She had a gold record, record nominated for a Grammy. And I was responsible for putting her sound together to the world. She'd never had a band on her own or singers. So I actually put all of that together, auditioned the singers, the band, and did her tour. And that was a big defining moment for my career, yes.
Mm-hmm. So what was I know you did that for quite a while and continued to tour. What do you kind of consider to be the next defining moment?
Well, one of the defining moments was on the tour with her, actually. Two or three of them. I have so many interesting moments. But, Cece was a really good friend of Whitney Houston's. And we did a pilot show called Cece's Place Prior to that pilot show happening, we got called to do the Songwriters Hall of Induction ceremony for a tribute to Diana Ross. And so we show up in New York, and, I meet Whitney Houston that day. I took one picture with her. I should have taken 500. I met Paul Simon, Berry Gordy, Susan DePass, Leslie Uggams, Diana Ross, Luther, all in the same day. And
were you giddy?
No.
You weren't? Oh gosh, I would have been so giddy.
Yeah.
If that was my world, and
that was a day at work.
Yeah.
And that was a defining moment to meet those people and to meet Whitney for the first time. Later on, obviously, I played for Whitney. So that was a defining moment for me to meet and to play for someone who I pretty much idolized through college. My girlfriends were pretty much angry with me about it. Doing the White House with Cece was a big deal because I ended up co-producing the show for PBS. Bill Clinton did a number of concerts while he was in office, and Cece's was one of them, and it was huge. It was a big deal. The name of the actress that was there, Cicely Tyson, was there. I mean, it was kind of crazy, to see all these people gathered on the south grounds of the White House. And it gave me a totally different perspective on the president, his presidency, and how he was running the country and how he was doing things. It was really interesting. He seemed like he had more black friends than he had white friends.
Right.
His personal guards were black. It was kind of crazy. But it was an awesome opportunity while I was with Cece. And then the Cinema Awards was another great moment. We opened the Cinema Awards. And the Cinema Awards, they do tributes to different actors and actresses. So Susan Lucci, Richard Dreyfuss, Bob Hope, Elizabeth Taylor, Morgan Freeman, the guy from Matrix, his name all of a sudden escapes me. He was honored that year. And then, it was just an all-star cast of singers. I mean, I met Shaka, Michael Bolton. The band that I worked with was Joe Malati was the MD for Michael Bolton at the time. We had some of Michael Jackson's singers and Stevie Wonder's singers up there. It was huge. We got a standing ovation. It was amazing. It was a great moment in my career. I met Tony Bennett, Natalie Cole, Raven when she was a little girl.
Right.
like everybody was there, So with Cece, even as a Christian artist, I got to do things that most pop secular artists, take their whole career to do. We did, Good Morning America for Christmas. That was my first time doing Good Morning America. And Rosie O'Donnell, CBS This Morning, Fox After Breakfast, NBC Today.
So did you feel like as all this stuff was happening, did it feel like it was it part of your journey that you aspired to have these opportunities, or were these opportunities like perks that, were on the periphery of what you ultimately wanted to do with your career?
They were definitely perks because, I just wanted to tour and play for an artist.
Right.
And as it turns out, Cece was an emerging, or, she was one of those gals that, transcended Christian and mainstream at the time, having mainstream success with the record she did with BB, the masters that they did. We navigated through the whole industry, we did the Goodwill Games opening ceremonies in Battery Park,
right.
Christian artists at the time just didn't get called for those kinds of opportunities. Now they have events where they have Christian night, every year when the Super Bowl happens, there's a big week of Christian music that night and that week and all this, but none of that stuff was happening back then. Anything that was big, Cece got invited to it.
Right. So where is all this taking you? I know that after you still do some touring and get some pretty cool opportunities, but it seems that there was a point in time that things really started shifting and you started finding yourself in the studio a lot.
Yeah, well, I always loved the studio. You know, doing live is basically a live recording. And a live recording is just that. You prepare for it and you record. You know, doing a concert is sort of like doing a live recording, and I've always gravitated to arranging, rearranging. You know, we didn't just play the songs the way they were on the record. So I found myself arranging and demoing ideas, and actually even doing demos with Cece and some other artists and that sort of thing. So, you know, I had some gear and started using it, you know, digging into the recording, arranging process of music.
And there's so much to making music. So I did the silly thing. So I've, lived in Nashville since I was 25, spent 15 years there before hopping over here to Austin for a spell. And I remember the first time that I really got exposed to what it's like to go into the studio and the work and effort that goes into making music. I mean, I guess I kind of always thought of it through the lens of the band is playing together on stage at church, where everyone just goes and they all play and someone hits record and then it's recorded. But that is so not what it is. There's so much more to it. And this, of course, I have so many friends that make music and are these unbelievable creative people. Whenever I decided to launch the podcast, in my head I'm thinking, okay, I am a creative entrepreneur. I'm an outside the box entrepreneur in a lot of ways, and my storyline has me in Austin and in Nashville, and I need to have great music on my podcast. I can't go pick a stock tune, put it on my podcast. I'm going to shame everyone in music that knows and loves me. So I remember calling you up and being like, can't we just lay down something simple and easy in tracks? And it was dead silent on the other end, and I could just imagine you shaking your head no, you cannot ask me. You cannot ask me to do that. So for the benefit of those who don't understand what goes into making music, why don't you give us the 30-second to create a track, to create the music for Creative Entrepreneur Podcast, which is only a minute's worth of music. What is involved in that?
Well, first of all, concept. I consulted you about what you were thinking, right, so that I didn't go in there and have a rapper on there
right,
with a grill in his mouth, which would be fine if that's what you're looking for.
Sure.
But, you were looking for a theme, something thematic that would establish the show every time it came on.
Happy. I wanted happy.
Right, and you wanted happy, you wanted it upbeat, positive sounding. Which, it's dual in nature because I'm producing, but I'm also doing almost, it's not complete film scoring, but I'm thinking television while I'm doing it, not really just a blog, or a podcast. I'm thinking television. So conceptually, I had to come up with a theme first that I thought would work for what you needed. I had to also be time conscious because, you needed, 30 seconds to a minute worth of work.
Uh-huh.
And how to make something really that impactful in that a little amount of time so that it grabs the attention of the listener. So I came up with an idea, sent it to you, made sure that you dug it. And after doing that, then I started, filling in the blanks with live drums with Steve Brewster, who's a phenomenal drummer.
Phenomenal. When you told me that Steve Brewster was doing drums for my little ditty.
Yeah, well, it's not little, and Steve Brewster is not a little drummer.
No.
You Google
Something
Steve.
Something happened.
Yeah, exactly. You Google Steve, and it's a whole other ballgame.
It is.
Anton Nesbitt played the bass. Josh played guitars, which I wanted it to be heavily driven by guitars. I did a keyboard idea, and then I added a couple of things,
Yeah.
But that's kind of it. But these guys are all phenomenal in their field.
When you say someone did guitar, Josh, is that what you said?
Mm-hmm. Joshua Lutz.
To the tune of not just a guitar track, he sent over 10 or 9 or something.
Yeah, 10
a
tracks.
lot of guitar tracks. It's not, someone doesn't just play a few bars of music in this situation. each one of them gave you a lot of music to work with, and then you just figured out how you wanted to layer it up. And it blows my mind to actually have watched something that, I care about. I didn't even have to care about it. That's what was cool, because I knew Roger was caring about it, and he would do a much better job caring about it than I would do. And then it has to be mixed. So after all of that
is
done, then it's got to be mixed.
Yeah, and so Jeff Pitzer, who was my trusted friend and engineer for almost 20 years, he mixed it and really brought the real essence of it out.
Oh, it just sounds so amazing. I love it. I just want to put it on a loop on iTunes and just listen over and over and over again. You guys did such a great job. So we were talking about the Marketech laws, and one of the laws that comes up that you can really see play out in making music that I think metaphorically is great for business owners is the law of leverage, right? The law of leverage says tall buildings and big bridges are built within a symphony of support: money, expertise, materials, equipment, workers, and the right locale. To build my business, I will learn to engage the services of others to handle responsibilities that are not my gift, to free my time and to enhance my flow. I will invest in the infrastructure my business needs to be able to grow. I will create win-win partnerships that expand my platform and influence. And that's almost a job description for a producer.
Yes, it is. It's not almost. It is. It is if the producer is smart and understands the power of delegation, and his ego is in a manageable place where he knows, okay, I can't do everything and do it well.
Right.
There's a difference between fruit punch and grape juice.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you've got to be a good leader as a producer. You have to understand how to motivate and inspire people and create a safe place for people to show up with their gifts and empower them. And it's fascinating the many layers of qualities and gifts that you have to be at your level. It's not enough just to be a great piano player and have a great ear and to know creatively what sounds good, but there's so much more that has to be packaged with those gifts for you to be successful making music as a producer.
Yeah, there's some producers that don't play very much of an instrument. And if they do, or if they did, they don't anymore, because, like you said, it's concept. It's about building a house and using the right materials and the right specialists to make the house really build, properly. So, that's a big deal. It's a really good point that you made. There are a lot of really talented guys who can play, but producing is, when they get in a room and they start producing something or the tracks don't reflect their ability as a musician because they're not producers.
Right.
That's
as if you needed to be tested more, you have segued from producer to label exec, label owner. So, because you needed to test your leadership and your collaborative abilities at an even deeper level. And in January, I was so blessed to be able to be there for the kickoff of your label, Aftertouch Music.
Yeah.
That's a big deal, a really big deal.
It is a big deal. It's crazy, actually.
So is that something that you wanted to do? I mean, did you always kind of know that it would be producer and then record label?
I don't know if I thought I would be a label. A lot of people mentioned it to me and I ignored them because it's a big undertaking. But I watched the business change, the model of the business change. And there are artists that I believe in that probably some of these A&R people believe in, but they wouldn't sign them, or they couldn't sign them for whatever reasons at the label, whatever politics at the label, finances, whatever their motives are. And I just thought that this is a good place for me to hang my hat and start representing these people that I believe in, that I've been producing, and thought, hey, if I had a label, I'd sign you.
Right.
Because, I really shouldn't be in a room producing people unless I'm doing an artist development thing. I really shouldn't be in a room producing someone I don't believe in, that I don't believe has a chance in the marketplace.
Right.
And that depends on their market, wherever that market is.
And it takes you back to your own beginnings working with these artists too. We were talking about the law of crawl, walk, run.
Sure.
Haste makes waste. I will start slow and scale with success. big leaps follow many small steps. I mean, that's certainly the story of your career, you know, starting where you were and continuing to network and grow and expand, and now you're kind of act two, doing this with artists and helping them to navigate their careers.
Yeah. So, you know, I again did the whole law of leveraging again because, you know, I have image and architect design person, social media, PR, radio. You know, some of the stuff I didn't even produce on one particular project. I think I did a few songs, and then, you know, she worked with another producer. So the onus is not on me to produce, even though I need to make sure my hand is in the production as far as the quality of the work. But yeah, it's about delegating and then working hard. And on this side, music is almost the easy part once you have the artist that you believe in and the right songs and production. It's about, you know, the industry side of it, radio and promotion, dates, marketing, aligning them up with the right PR people, booking agents, promotional dates, videos, electronic press kits, and the list goes on. And
did you know how big that list was going to be when you took the label on? Did you feel like you knew what you were getting yourself into?
To a certain degree, I did. I think it's more about the commitment than it is about all of the stuff.
Right.
Because production was bigger than I'd imagined when I started learning, you know, when music started being digital recording and hard disk recording and no longer on tape machines. You know, everything changed. You know, your equipment changed, audio interfaces that record through mics that talk to computers, and then software synths that play instruments, and, you know, it just, everything has changed. And it's the same thing with doing a label, and every artist you're gonna encounter something different with them, even if they're in the same genre or in a different genre. Mm-hmm. And you have to learn to adjust to that, and not only adjust to what's going on with the music of the artist, but now you're kind of like a dad. You know, you're dealing with personalities, and
you're a nurturing figure now.
Right, things are not happening fast enough for them, and they want this and they want that, and, you know, it's definitely a journey.
Yeah.
But it's a part of the process, and I'm okay with the process.
So how can people find you or get a hold of you if they want to learn more about Aftertouch music, if they want to learn more about Roger Ryan or connect with you on social media? Where can you be found?
Well, according to a marketing strategist that I met and worked with, she started my Twitter page and my Instagram page.
That was many moons ago.
And it is called Producer Roger. So you can follow me on Producer Roger at Twitter and Instagram, and at _Aftertouch is the social media page for the label. I have a social media company that runs the page. My website is rogerryan.net. And that has a lot of information about me as a producer and artist that I produce, music samples and that sort of thing. The label page is really about the artist, and that is aftertouchmusic.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you for giving us like a peek behind the curtain to how the industry works and how you built your career. And thank you so much for creating this amazing music that will grace our podcast for years to come, I'm sure, until we add, what are we adding? We're adding brass to it the next run.
Maybe.
Jazzing it up a little.
Yeah, I just thought of something, if I may.
Yeah.
I guess another defining moment in my career, too, would be getting nominated for a Grammy award and a Juno Award, which I did win the Juno Award, but the Grammy Award was a big deal, being nominated and, you know, sitting in the VIP section at Staples, and, being recognized amongst your peers or people that you respect was a really great defining moment for me in my career.
There is something about that. Like, it's one thing to have people hire you or bring you in on projects, or, people outside of your industry to look at what you're doing and, feel proud of you or admire your work, but there's something completely different to have your peers and people that you respect acknowledging your work. There's something kind of holy and beautiful about that, and I can see where that would be a very meaningful experience for you.
Absolutely. I should have mentioned that, but those are defining moments, and they also help your, kind of increases your stock, so to speak, but to be in the same room on, 5-10 feet away from David Foster, and to meet Chick Corea, and to be around, Will Ferrell, and, Justin Timberlake, and, that kind of thing. Beyonce's dad. It was crazy. It was it was a really cool thing, and it inspires you to work hard. I met Clive Davis later that night. It was pretty amazing.
If it were to happen in 2015, you would probably actually have a GoPro mounted to your shoulder as you're walking through these rooms, capturing all of it for posterity.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to put all the contact info for Roger in our show notes. And thank you again, Roger, for sharing with us today. It's been awesome having you on. And thank you for the great gift of your friendship and your brilliance in supporting Creative Entrepreneur Radio. I'm super honored and blessed to call you a friend.
Oh, as am I. Thank you so much for having me, Misty. You are Jewel.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Creative Entrepreneur Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on iTunes. That helps others find our show. You can find links, contact information, and a recap of today's episode in the show notes found at creativeentrepreneur.radio.com. Tweet Tell Misty. That's TELLMISTY with your thoughts, ideas, or questions, and join the conversation on our Facebook group. You can learn more about Misty and her work over at marketechu.com. See you next time.